You
Again,
too. Thanks for having me.
briefing. And
For sure. For the rest of my life. It was an emotionally heavy day. It was a very sad day. And was so proud to stand next to Patty. As a mother, I cannot imagine walking in her shoes and feeling what she feels every day, the heartbreak and the anguish over the loss of her daughter, and to just stand beside her as she shared so eloquently the story of her daughter's life and her tragic death was something I will never forget. You know, they say sometimes you forget words, but you'll never forget how a person makes you feel. I will never forget how Patty Morin not only made me feel, but the feeling in the briefing room was something I've never experienced. She left the press speechless.
I noticed
and that
that.
was a first. Now, I don't want to speak for Patty, but I spent a lot of time with her before the briefing, and then after we had dinner together later that evening. And she's a woman of faith, and her faith is what leads her life, especially now, I think,
Yes.
in the wake of this tragedy that has happened to not just her, but her whole family. She has 5 grandchildren who no longer have a mother. And so I think she's a woman of God and a woman of faith, and that has helped her through some of that anger and hurt that she initially experienced. But she's using her voice for good, and she is changing the world. I told her that you're changing the hearts and minds of people around the world with your words and your daughter's story, and God bless her for doing it. Look, the Supreme Court, we are confident and hopeful, will ultimately rule in the president's favor when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act and the deportations that this administration is trying to carry out, because the president is acting within his executive authority as the powers vested in him as president of the United States. And all we are trying to do is enforce our nation's immigration laws. And Abrego Garcia is a perfect case of that. This is a man who illegally entered our country in 2012. He was here illegally in Maryland for 7 years. In 2019, a court ordered his removal. 2 separate immigration judges in courts affirmed his gang affiliation. He has tattoos proving his gang affiliation to MS-13, which is one of the most vicious gangs on this planet. These are not the types of people the American public want in our country. And we need to be a nation of laws. So he was deported back to his country of origin, where the president there has said that's where he shall remain, because he is an El Salvadorian national with ties to this vicious gang, and he needs to be locked up, and that's where he is.
And messaging?
I said to our team, we're blessed with very ignorant opponents who have clearly no idea what the American public want. I mean, 89% of Americans in a recent CBS poll said that they support the deportation of all illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in our country. 89%. I mean, you can't get much more public support for a policy than deportations of legal criminals. That's what this administration is doing. So we are not going to waver. We are not going to cave. We are not going to apologize for doing what the American public want us to do and for enforcing our nation's immigration laws. Look, the United States is the best place in the world to do business, and the whole world knows it. They need what we have, which is the American consumer. They need our money. They need our market. The president knows that, and he's using the leverage of the United States and our economy and the American public to our own nation's advantage, to do what's right for the American worker and to cut fair and balanced trade deals, and I think you're going to be hearing about some of those very soon.
Yes
The
or no?
president knows exactly what he's doing. He is focusing on negotiating good trade deals for the American people and the American worker and American industry as well. And if companies want to evade these tariffs, there's a way to do it. Do your business in America. Make your product in America with American hands. You'll pay no tariff, and you'll have some of the lowest tax cuts in the world, tax rates in the world, once President Trump signs his tax cuts into law, which he's working hard with Congress to do. So that's always been the president's plan. Low taxes, low energy costs, less regulation, more prosperity and growth, and more money in the pockets of the American public, of small business owners, of workers, of CEOs, so they can hire more and pay more. We want to see wages increase. We saw all of this happen in his first term. It is possible with the economic formula that the president has implemented once, and he's working on doing it again. And look, as he said, there's going to be a period of transition. The previous administration ran our economy into the ground because they spent money like drunken sailors. So the president is working on rolling all all of that back, slashing the wasteful regulations of the last administration. It takes time to do, but trust in Trump. That's why the American people elected him back to this office. Look, we're going to let Capitol Hill and Congress do its thing. The president has a good relationship with Speaker Johnson, a great relationship as well with Senator Thune, and so we want Congress to get this done. The president's made it clear. Absolutely.
Has to happen.
Yes, the president's made it clear. One big, beautiful bill as soon as possible.
Kind of stuff?
Yeah. One would think parental rights should exist in this country. The president is strongly on the side of parents on this one. I'm glad you brought it up. There was a fascinating article in the New York Times this morning about how the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself, agreed that men should not be in women's sports, but he pushed it anyway because the far left has completely captivated the Democrat Party. So you have a major party in this country that is pushing for men competing against women in biological sports. It makes no sense, and they know it. President Biden knew it, but he lacked the courage to actually say it or do something about it. President Trump has the courage to do what's right. He is making common sense common again, and he signed a very strong executive order to keep men out of women's sports, and we've actually sued the state of Maine for refusing to comply with that executive action. So we are not going to allow biological men to compete against females, not just compete, but threaten their safety on the playing field as well. This is a safety issue for women. It's a privacy issue as well. And I know that there are millions of women across the country who are cheering President Trump on in this fight.
Karoline,
You too, Chris.
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.